boys. I don't know how, but it is already week 12 of the NFL season. These are our top 24 running backs for week 12. And boys, before we get into it, check out our SOBET first link in the description. The main attraction on the SOBET, we got our full rest of the season rankings on there. Also, every single primetime game we post our star, sit, and sleeper. Great advice on there. You also get other 25 plus creator content, full stuff on our SOBET, first link in the description. First running back in general. He has been insane. Has to be Austin Eckler. Crazy PPR upside, crazy touchdown upside. Yeah, easy number one choice. At RB2, we got Christian McCaffrey. Again, he might get a little worse going to the Niners, gets a bit less rushing attempts. Elijah Mitchell takes from him, but gets a lot of targets. 7 catches last week. He's still a great play in week 12. Number 3, Derrick Henry has a bit of a tough matchup against the Bengals. They've been pretty good against running backs, but again, Henry has been so good. I believe 25 plus points against the Packers last week. He just has to be the lead RB1. And our first player in the next tier, the RB1 tier, we got Josh Jacobs. Last week couldn't score a touchdown, so didn't have an amazing week, but still did good. He got a ton of PPR work, ton of receiving yards, a ton of rushing yards. He's still one of the main focuses of this Raiders offense. We love him in week 12. And next up, we got Kenneth Walker, the running back, playing against Josh Jacobs. Raiders defense has just been so bad against running backs. Kenneth Walker even got a ton of targets last week. Love the upside here. At RB6, we got Saquon Barkley. It's a pretty tough matchup. Dallas did pretty good against Dalvin Cook last week. Again, though, Giants, and again, Saquon, past couple weeks hasn't been amazing. The Lions also did a pretty good job stopping him, but he's on this Giants offense. He is the clear focal point. Gets a lot of catches, gets a lot of rushing attempts. If they are in the red zone, there's a high chance the touchdown's going to go to Saquon Barkley. He's still an elite play. Next up, Aaron Jones. He has been getting absolutely force-fed lately, getting tons of touches. It's a bit of a tougher match against the Eagles. Obviously, the Eagles have been amazing this season, but again, when you have that many touches, you have a pretty safe floor for fantasy. And next up, at RB8, we got Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor looking like he is back over the past 2 weeks, both games, 15 plus points. This week goes against the Steelers. The Steelers are really bad against wide receivers, but against running backs, they're like kind of good, kind of bad, kind of in the middle, maybe a bit above average, so it's a bit of a tough matchup with JT right now. He's a focal point of this offense. If they're in the red zone, he should be getting the touchdowns. We love him in week 12. First player in the next tier, we got Nick Chubb. He has been awesome this season, but it's a tougher matchup against the Bucs. They have a super good run defense, have for a few years now. And again, when you're not a PPR receiving back, your upside takes a little bit of a hit when you verse super good run defenses. And next up, we got Travis Etienne. Travis Etienne, decently disappointing last week against the Chiefs. The game just kind of got away from them, couldn't run the ball, but this week against the Ravens, we hope the game is close. The spread right now is Ravens minus 3.5, so it should be at least a pretty close game. Travis Etienne gets a lot of rushing attempts. His PPR work is a bit less than we all thought. We thought he'd maybe be a bit more of a PPR back. Still gets a lot of rushing attempts though, still gets the touchdowns, and still is a good play. Next up, we got Joe Mixon. This is obviously assuming he does play with the concussion. If he doesn't play, P. Ryan's around this range, maybe a little bit lower. Again, Mixon, he has been kind of hit and miss this season, had that one blow-up game, 55 points. Other than that, has been solid, not amazing, not horrible. Again, he's like a low-end RB1 for us. And last player in this tier, our RB12, we got James Conner. James Conner, the touchdown last week saved him, but it was a super tough matchup. This week, a way better matchup against the Chargers. Should be able to run a lot against them. They're terrible against the run. James Conner right now. After they released Eno, he's basically a workhorse, gets all the rushing attempts, gets good PPR work, gets a lot of touchdowns. He's a great play. First running back in the next tier, we got Tony Pollard. He's been on an insane run, but we just don't think this is going to continue. He's not going to average over 30 points per week. But the Giants defense has been pretty injured, hasn't been phenomenal as of late. Again, he still has great upside, just don't expect 30 plus points every single week. And next up at RB14, it's the worst matchup on the board. Dalvin Cook plays the New England Patriots. The New England Patriots, number 1 currently against RBs. Dalvin Cook last week, only 7 points against the Falcons, no PPR work. But the thing is, the Cowboys won by 37 points. It was an absolute blowout. He didn't play the fourth quarter. It's just no need to put him in there. This game should be close against the Patriots. If they are in the red zone, he should get at least a chance to score. Maybe a couple red zone attempts would be nice for Dalvin Cook. Again, terrible matchup, but you still have to play him. Next up, Alvin Kamara. Wasn't phenomenal last week. Had, I believe, just under 13 points. He always has an upside, though. He always has those games where he scores multiple touchdowns. Again, this year has been a bit more hit and miss, unfortunately, and it is a tough matchup against the 49ers. But again, still have to play him with his upside. At RB16, we got Jeff Wilson. He draws an amazing matchup against the Houston Texans. They are by far the worst team in the league against RBs. I think 5 or 6 weeks so far this year, they've allowed either the RB1 or the RB2 on the week. And Jeff Wilson, ever since coming to Miami, he has taken over this Dolphins backfield. Mostert is still kind of playable because it's such a great matchup, but Jeff Wilson, he's the clear RB there, gets more touches, gets more snaps. First running back in the next tier, we got Ramondre Stevenson. Even though the Patriots offense has been horrible, he's still relevant for fantasy Ps. He gets used in the passing game. Absolutely love to see that for running backs. Have good PPR upside. I believe he had 6 catches, I want to say, last week. And again, this week is a tough matchup against the Vikings, but again, when you use in the passing game, you always have a pretty safe floor. Next up, at RB18, we got Najee Harris. Najee could be even higher than this if Jaylen Warren doesn't play. Jaylen Warren has been taking third downs from him all season, but he got injured last week. And after that injury, Najee was basically his last year role. He played every snap. I think 6 targets, got 2 touchdowns, finally scored over 20 fantasy points. Great week. If Warren is out, Najee is an amazing play in week 12. Next up, Leonard Fournette. I know a lot of people are panicking on him. We still do like him more than Rachaad White. Expect him to be back, hopefully healthy from that hip injury he had last time they played, obviously on bye last week. And it's an amazing matchup. Browns have been pretty bad against running backs. I believe they were bottom 2 or 3 against them. So again, pretty good upside here. And our last player in this tier, we got David Montgomery. David Montgomery last week was amazing. He was this clear workhorse after Khalil Herbert went down, over 20 points. He led the team in receiving yards this week. Not an amazing matchup against the Jets. They're pretty good against RBs, but David Montgomery, he's a workhorse in Chicago, and he's still a solid play. And last player in this tier, we got Dameon Pierce. He was awful last week. Had 8 rushing yards on 10 carries. That is less than 1 yard a carry. Washington did an amazing job of bottling him up, but it should be a better matchup this week against the Dolphins. Dolphins obviously have not been phenomenal against running backs. Not horrible, but not great either. So we expect definitely a better game. Just still don't love the upside. And our first player in this last tier, we got Devin Singletary. Devin Singletary right now is looking like the clear RB1 in Buffalo. He's not a workhorse, but he still is playing 70 plus snaps. Over the past 3 weeks, he's getting touchdowns. He's getting PPR work. Again, in this Bills offense, they score so much. Even though he might not get a ton of rushing yards, he has scoring upside every single week, and he's a good play. Jamal Williams comes up next. He got 3 rushing touchdowns last week. Didn't even play 50% of snaps, but he's just the pure goal line, or the team's clear goal line back. Every time they're on the goal line, he's always in there, always has great touchdown upside. Obviously, he's not going to score 3 touchdowns every single week, but when you have that type of upside, definitely have to be a top 24 RB. And our last player of the video, our RB24, we have Antonio Gibson. Him and Brian Robinson are pretty close in our rankings, but we give the slight edge to Gibson because of the PPR work. They get similar carries, similar goal line attempts, but Antonio Gibson gets more catches. Again, pretty solid matchup, not amazing, not terrible. He is a top 24 RB. And boys, thank you so much for watching. Again, check out the SOBET for our exclusive content and also 25 plus other creators exclusive content. Thanks again for watching. See you guys next time.